maybe you'll have some luck this week. Mary's in Nashville for the next few days. Poundcake, if we hear him, we'll hear him. Who knows what's going on around here? The Cavaliers are off tonight. Tomorrow night, they will play their last game before the All-Star break against the Hawks. They'll be in Atlanta tomorrow night. Cavs-Hawks at 7:30 here on WMMS. So 7 o'clock is when the pregame will begin. They're coming off a little back and forth over the past few games. So tomorrow night. And then we will be live doing the show downtown on Friday afternoon at Public Auditorium for the NBA crossover sessions brought to you by Nissan. They're doing a bunch of those over the course of the weekend. Speaking of 50 Cent, he's going to be here for one of the NBA All-Star parties. Yeah, 50 Cent and Lil Wayne are also going to be here as well.
Nelly's going to be doing a show.
Nelly!
There's a bunch of crazy stuff happening.
They're calling it one of the most star-studded events in the city's history. Over 50 celebrations planned at venues in and around Cleveland with 50 Cent. Where's 50 been, by the way? Living off vitamin water money, or?
Dude's got lots of money.
I guess so.
Because then he also did like a liquor, and then he did. He also produced some TV shows and movies and stuff like that. So he's
Curtis 50 Cent Jackson.
He doesn't have to do much. He's
I guess
got
so.
money.
He's poking Chelsea Handler for a while. Good for him. And Lil Wayne, both of those guys. Among all of the... And then, of course, I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, I'm a little disappointed, when I see a story about 50 Cent and Lil Wayne. No mention of us doing the show downtown on Friday in this article. How are you going to do a story about All-Star Weekend parties and not include the Alan Cox Show live broadcast?
Do they know there's going to be a live Poundcake sports break and a live get down?
I don't know how they couldn't know that. The information's all out there. Just out there, waiting for you to grab it. So, live Poundcake sports break on Friday. Live Friday get down. Blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. Hey, by the way, over at AlanCoxShow.com, thank you very much to Nathaniel Badoncroft for helping out in the live stream today on Valentine's Day. We weren't sure how this was going to go down because, everybody wants to celebrate Valentine's Day in a particular way. But over there at the Badoncroft house, I guess it's not that big of a deal.
I mean, you still got to work.
Still got to work. You still got to bring home that bacon. Super Bowl commercials. Any thoughts on these?
I like I think the one that was probably the most effective, I'm not saying it was funny, not saying it was clever, but it just got a lot of people to engage with it, was the Coinbase one where they just had the QR code bouncing around. Yeah,
they crashed their website or something.
I liked the Guy Fieri one.
Didn't see that one.
The Flavor Town?
Didn't see it.
It was for Bud Light Seltzer. It was saying that it had whatever, it had the loudest flavor or something like that. And then people came and stole it from the Super Bowl party and took it to the mayor. And they had to run through Flavortown, and he turns around, he's the mayor of Flavortown.
Oh, well, I think I saw that one online last week. That was one of the ones that they leaked or whatever.
I thought it was cute.
I liked the Sopranos one for Chevy. That was good.
How did I miss all these?
I liked the Larry David one.
I like the Larry David one.
Larry David has never done a commercial before, so they must have just thrown him a giant bag of money, which is tough to do because he also doesn't need that. Doesn't need the exposure and doesn't need, for all the different scenes that they shot for that crypto commercial, costuming and all that kind of stuff. I would love to know how they got him to do that commercial.
Maybe it's just a product he really believes in.
Crypto?
Nah, they gave him so much money.
Again, it's not like he needs money. So there was some hook there. Larry will pay you in Bitcoin or whatever.
Now, is it just me, or was everything about this Super Bowl trying to be early 2000s? Because, they remade the Austin Powers, they did an Austin Powers commercial. They did a Cable Guy commercial with Jim Carrey. It just felt like
it rested heavily on nostalgia.
Yes, it was a very nostalgia-heavy Super Bowl, I felt like.
Yeah.
Or is it always like that, and this just is my age group, so I noticed it more?
Maybe a little of both. Every time, they always have a Super Bowl commercial that puts a couple of people back together, and you're like, oh, remember when they did that thing?
Yeah.
I thought that the Austin Powers thing was I don't know. Wasn't my cup of tea.
I don't even remember what it was for.
That's the thing. There's so many of
Chevy?
these commercials where
I'm
you're
not
just
sure.
like, what was that about?
Yeah, it was for electric vehicles or something.
Oh, that's what
Yeah.
it was. He had to save the Earth before he could kill it or
Right.
something.
Yes. I never thought Dr. Evil was that funny to begin with. So every time they dig up Mike Myers doing Dr. Evil, I'm like, okay, that one didn't blow up my skirt. There
I
were
liked it.
some okay ones. Sloths got crazy on hot Cheetos or something. And, they really run the gamut between going, oh, that's clever, and then going, oh, they didn't do anything with this.
Or the Hellman's Mayo where Pete Davidson got hit. And that one was funny because it was unintentionally topical.
Yes. What, that he tackled Pete Davidson?
Yeah, and then it's like, I kind of have a face that people want to hit. And then
I have a punchable face.
punchable face or something. And Kanye had been spending the last 24 hours saying how he wants to
Beat up Pete Davidson.
Beat up Pete Davidson, and you never meet my kids or anything
Yeah.
like that.
The one with Leslie Jones and Rashida Jones and Tommy Lee Jones and the pickup trucks, that was okay.
Oh, yeah, that was all right.
Anytime I
People
get
with
to
the
see
Joneses,
Rashida
yeah.
Jones, I'm happy. But yeah, the crypto ad for Larry David was him throughout history rejecting all of these amazing inventions. The wheel, the
I got 10
toilet,
forks right here.
the fork.
I call it the wheel.
I don't think so. This is a miss.
Brother David, behold! It's a fork! I got 10 forks right here, baby!
Yeah, and then of course he goes, they bring him crypto, and he goes, nah. And he goes, and I'm never wrong about these things. So it's the implication being, of course, that cryptocurrency is as revolutionary and as life-changing as the toilet, the Declaration of Independence, the wheel, the light bulb,
The fork.
That's right.
Guess we'll have to wait and see.
All the other Ponzi schemes throughout history. That's right. Yeah, the Jim Carrey cable guy thing, he looked considerably older, so that threw me off a little bit. Even though he is. I mean,
he is,
whatever.
yeah,
It is
that
what
was
it is.
30
But
years
that
ago almost.
that kind of threw me off. But, yeah.
Now,
it was-
wasn't that movie a flop? Like, it
Yeah.
became a cult classic, but it didn't do well.
Well, it's such a different... Yeah, it didn't do well in theaters, and a lot of people didn't like it because it was so different from all the other roles he had played to that point. I mean, it went from Ace Ventura to The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, which are all silly movies, and then Cable Guy, which was so dark in a tone that you'd never seen from him. I always loved it, but I see why other people didn't enjoy it because it was so different than anything else he had done.
I loved it, but there were about 3 other people in the theater when I saw it.
Yeah. It was just tonally so different and so I mean, it's a movie that makes people uncomfortable.
I don't even know what it is. He's a cable guy.
You never seen it?
No. Or if I did, it was a long time ago.
Well, yeah, it was
He's like a
mid-90s when
stalker,
it came
yeah.
out, yeah.
Oh, he's a stalker.
Yeah, and he wants to become friends with one of his customers. At
Oh,
great,
so now-
great risk to himself and everyone else.
But
It's not like a sex thing. Like, he wants a friend.
he just wants a friend. Yeah.
He's lonely.
Aw, poor guy.
He's lonely, yeah. But I think it knocked Ben Stiller on his ass, too, because it was a while before he directed another movie, because he directed Cable Guy, and I think they thought that it was going to hit just people right at the sweet spot, and it did the exact opposite.
No, it did not. But again, there's so many funny things. It was like the Menendez brothers type trial that was going on that everybody was paying attention to, and there was all these and Ben Stiller played those guys, and just some of the cutaway scenes that they have to those are very funny. It's got Jack Black in it, and he's not over the top.
Perfect.
This is a very subdued Jack Black.
What's his role?
He is friends with Matthew Broderick, and he's the one that kind of exposes Jim Carrey for being a crazy person that like changes his identity to kind of get into people's lives.
Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, man, this guy isn't everything he says he is, and yeah. But everybody's
the
great in
basketball
it.
scene, man.
Yeah, Bob Odenkirk's in it. And,
Yeah.
a ton of great people in it.
I love that movie. I need to rewatch that because I forgot how good the basketball scene is.
Yeah. Well, they originally the Jim Carrey role was originally Chris Farley, but he dropped out of that, and then they went to Sandler, and Sandler goes no, so they go to Jim Carrey, and he goes all right. So if the Cable Guy had been Chris Farley, who knows what would have happened there? I got some money for you. It's $1,000 chance for you to go fund yourself. Last week to do this, so be listening for all these keywords for your shot at some of this cash. So good luck.
The Buzzard wants you to go fund yourself and score $1,000. Enter the nationwide keyword WORK at WMMS.com. That's WORK. Enter it now at WMMS.com. And good luck from Buzzard Radio.
I think that was the first movie I saw Leslie Mann in.
Oh, Leslie Mann.
So pretty.
Well, to Mary's point, the movie was not a flop. The perception is that that movie was a flop. It just had critics going like, we don't know what to make of this for the reasons you said. It was a really dark thing for Jim Carrey. But it made like $120 million,
Okay,
I think. It made money because at that time, I think Jim Carrey could still, people would go see him in things.
I don't remember the box office being whatever it was, but I remember people didn't know what to think. They're like, they go and see this and go, was it supposed to be funny? I didn't understand.
Right, they thought it was another wacky Jim Carrey
I
movie.
thought it was funny.
Alan Cox Show After Hours line. Anytime you want to call and just leave a message there, you can. It's 216-986-8903.
Hey, Alan. Tim from Cleveland. Did you listen to the Thursday show? You're talking about Heather McDonald fainting mid-set. And I just have to say, I think it's so funny that the biggest irony of the situation was that she was telling a joke about how invincible she was because she got the vaccine, and then she fainted, and then a crowd thought she's doing a joke about that. And in fact, ironically, she just fainted. But, of course, that didn't get brought up because that would not support your narrative.
My what?
Your narrative, obviously, because we are...
What narrative? Heather McDonald passed out on stage.
Yeah.
What narrative?
I don't know what narrative. He's thinking the vaccines are good narrative that we push,
because she even said this on her Instagram where she was like, she was bragging about how she's never gotten COVID and how she's like, thinks that she can't get it and she's vaxxed and boosted and all these things. And the irony that people were pointing out that she was saying like, oh, look at how great I'm doing. I can't get COVID. And then she passed out on stage. I don't know if she passed out from COVID, though. That I don't know.
Well, she said she didn't have COVID.
Well, that's... I think
what narrative is he talking about?
that we're liberal and we pimp the vaccine and it doesn't...
Oh, so
actually
he's
make you
he's
invincible.
connecting things that have nothing. I can't make heads or tails of that call. That made no sense to me. Wait, so he acknowledges she was making a joke, but then by the end of his call, the joke is real?
No, we didn't talk about the fact that she was joking about not being able to get COVID. We skipped over the content of what she was saying.
Oh, I didn't care about that. It was a wild video. I was just curious if anybody had seen the video where two jokes in, she falls over backwards and hits the mic stand. It was wild. I didn't care what she was talking about.
He was saying that you didn't address the content because it didn't fit our narrative of vaccines being good? ?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It still doesn't make sense. You know who else died is Ivan Reitman.
Yeah.
He was a big fan of my wife.
Oh, really?
When she used to work for the Cleveland Film Commission, yeah, he would chat her up a lot. But they said that he died suddenly. Of course, anyone now who dies, the anti-vax people all go online and go, it was the vaccine or whatever. That's what killed Bob Saget. And then they go, well, he had massive contusions on the back of his head. Yeah, well. But Ivan Reitman, apparently, I don't know that he was ill. He died in his sleep, 75 years old. Of course, he was the director behind Ghostbusters and produced a lot of very, very popular films. My wife was working on a film called Draft Day many years ago here in Cleveland that they shot with Dennis Leary. It was about the Cleveland Browns. And Ivan Reitman was the director of that. And so she had a series of dinners and interactions with him. But this really came out of nowhere, I guess. In his home in Montecito, pardon me, 75 years old. He was raised in Canada. That's where we met Aykroyd and Moranis and all those guys. And he had offered the Ghostbusters part to John Candy. John Candy didn't get it at all. He's like, I don't think this is for me.
The original screenplay, I don't know if you remember, we wrote it for John Candy because I had just worked with him again on Stripes, and John didn't get it. He kept saying, hey, well, maybe can I do him with a German accent? And I was a little hesitant right away. I said, it's kind of an odd thing. It's a very American, New York-based movie. And finally, it was clear that he was not going to do it. And I literally called Rick Moranis the same day and sent him the script the same day that Candy had turned it down. And Rick called me like 2 hours after he got it, and he said, please thank Candy for turning this down. This is amazing. I know what to do with this.
Yeah, Stripes, fantastic film. As much as people like Stripes, I still think it's underrated in his list of movies. Kindergarten Cop, he directed. He directed Junior and Twins with Schwarzenegger, all those movies. He did a movie with Sigourney Weaver in, it was called Dave. Remember Dave, where Kevin Kline looks exactly like the president?
Yeah, I actually like that movie a lot.
Dave's a good movie. So, just out of nowhere, Ivan Reitman died. I guess everybody dies out of nowhere. You know, you don't know the very second they're going to, even if they're very sick, they still die out of nowhere. Yeah. But there was no indication that he was on his last legs or anything.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
But, yeah.
He had a lot of great films. And, yeah, just Ghostbusters. There's a series on Netflix called Movies That Made Us, and they do an episode on Ghostbusters. And they didn't know what they were doing with that. They didn't have, it was so disorganized. The fact that it came out as good as it did, and it's this classic film, is incredible because they, like, everything was like last second, like, okay, we're kind of slapping this all together, and it worked out so well, and it's such a classic movie that it's, when you know all the chaos that was going on behind the scenes, you're like, oh, it seems like it should have been a terrible movie, but it was great.
Right. Yeah. Listen, I got a break here. If you want to text for anything, 35192 to get that through. And AlanCoxShow.com. You want to watch live, listen anywhere. If you're out and about running around, you can listen to the show on the iHeartRadio app.
The Alan Cox Show on 100.7
WMMS.